I'd like to call this meeting of the Sugar Grove Village Board to order. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. If we can have roll call, please, Tracy.
President Stovall.
Here.
Trustee Lindy.
Here.
Trustee Bonnie. Trustee Michaels.
Here.
Trustee Special.
Here.
Trustee London.
Here.
Trustee Roscoe.
Here.
Up first, we have a public hearing this evening establishing a backup special service area number 32 for CS2 Aurora Airport Solar. I'd like to open the public hearing establishing the special service area at this time, and Danny Marion will present this item.
So the next steps for establishing the SSA 32 for the Aurora Airport Solar property is to hold a public hearing. This is to establish the backup SSA for the permeable paver access road that they're doing to ensure that it is properly maintained. So staff is recommending that President Stillwell open the public hearing, take comments, and close the public hearing.
Thank you. Would anyone like to speak on this item this evening? Hearing none, I will close the public comment at this time. Oh, sorry, I will close the public hearing at this time. Up next, we have airport report, Trustee Special.
No report.
All right, up next, we have public comment on scheduled action items. The consent agenda, we have approval of the July 21st, 2026 Village Board meeting minutes and approval of the vouchers. General business, we have a resolution authorizing the purchase of replacement street light poles from City Electric. Would anyone like to make a public comment on either of these items? All right, would anyone like to remove an item from the consent agenda? Is there a motion and a second to approve the consent agenda?
Make a motion to approve.
We have a first from Trustee Michaels. Is there a second?
I'll second.
And a second from Trustee Roscoe. If we can have roll call, please, Tracy.
Trustee Michaels.
Aye.
Trustee Roscoe.
Aye.
Trustee Lundy. Lundy. Trustee London.
Aye.
Trustee Special.
Aye.
The ayes have it and the consent agenda is approved. The first item of general business, we have a resolution authorizing the purchase of replacement streetlight poles from City Electric. Is there a motion and a second to discuss and vote on this item?
I'll make that motion.
We have a first from Trustee Special. Is there a second?
I'll make that second.
And we have a second from Trustee London. Brad Merkel will present this item.
This is just basic housekeeping. We keep these in stock because if there's an accident, a motor vehicle hits it, it's like a 3 to 4 month lead time for replacement. So in an effort to try and get the pole put back up as soon as possible, we keep inventory at the shop. We like to keep 2 of each style, so this is just inventory. So,
Thank you very much.
thank you.
Thank you. Is there any discussion? If we could have roll call, please, Tracy.
Trustee Special.
Aye.
Trustee London.
Aye.
Trustee Lindy. Trustee Michaels.
Aye.
Trustee Roscoe.
Aye.
The ayes have it, and the resolution authorizing the purchase of replacement streetlight poles from City Electric is approved. Up next, we have public comment, and one person signed up, Jaden Chatham.
Good evening, Jaden Chatham. Just wanted to say that I'm a little concerned with some documents I've seen recently come out through FOIA, specifically with EEI, and I'm aware that they are here tonight. And there's no discussion item that really concerns EEI on the agenda. So I would hope that any discussion with EEI be done in public. You don't have a new business area on your agenda, but you do have staff reports. So since EEI is the village engineer, I would hope that questions and comments and discussions with EEI be done during that section and not hidden in executive session. Personnel and litigation, I don't think that really counts for anything related to what I may have seen in FOIA. I'm just kind of really disappointed that I've read certain things. And I think in full transparency with all village residents, that all discussion should be held in the open. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else that would like to speak in public comment?
This past weekend, I sent you an email outlining my concerns that the village president was attempting to slow down the approval process for Crown, while also seeking ways to avoid future TIF reimbursements. I hope you had an opportunity to review at least some of the attached correspondence, because there's a lot. When you FOIA something, you get what you get. And draw your own conclusions. The volume of emails exchanged over a relatively short period of time appears to establish a pattern of using the pretense of ensuing compliance to create unnecessary procedural obstacles that are unlikely to benefit the village. In fact, could eventually prove harmful. Following my email, the village president again took to Facebook, favorite place, to explain her position, but without providing the context of underlying facts. She also announced that she intends to present her concerns to the Joint Review Board later this month. That should be an interesting presentation, and more importantly, it will become part of the official record. If you read only one document, I encourage you to focus on the Jennifer Cohen July 14 letter on behalf of Crown. It directly addresses and refutes many, if not all, the rumors and allegations with supporting facts and documentation. I also learned from that letter that the site has experienced vandalism, which is disappointing, but unfortunately not entirely surprising.
Could you repeat that?
Vandalism.
I'm sorry. I did not.
Most significant statement, however, appears in the final paragraph, one we should take heed. Sugar Grove LLC will not acquiesce to procedural requirements or restrictions that are inconsistent with the annexation agreement, nor will it waive any rights or remedies available under the agreement or applicable law. Whether that's simply standard legalese or unmistakable warning remains to be seen. Regardless of where anyone stands on the TIF, it's currently the law. While the courts will ultimately decide its long-term validity, it has thus far withstood every legal challenge. Deliberately creating bureaucratic obstacles to impede its implementation is a risky course of action that could expose the village to unnecessary consequences. And finally, I would be remiss if I did not remind you that at the February 17th board meeting, I urged the village to begin a strategic planning process. That was nearly 6 months ago. The last update I heard was at the May 19th board meeting that the strategic plan would be available late summer or early fall. Well, since this is now August, I look forward to the presentation and discussion of the village's priorities and plans to achieve them. Are we still on track? I know you can't answer that. Maybe one of you could ask that question. Thank you.
Thank you, Mary. Is there anyone else who would like to speak at public comment? Hearing none, we will close public comment at this time. We have no discussion items this evening. Up next, we have staff report. Scott Keppel, administration.
My report's in your packet. Happy to answer questions.
Karen.
Scott, what is the status of the strategic plan? And then also I was hoping we'd discuss Village Hall locations and potentials. So,
Absolutely. So strategic plan is in my work plan for this year, and I'll be coming back to the board with a session to gather information soon. It's in my work plan at various meetings coming up here, so it's the plan to happen this year. I have this tentatively scheduled for the next meeting to talk about potential Village Hall sites, and have been researching and putting together a presentation to get feedback on that. So, thank you.
Thank you. Karen Johns, finance.
I have nothing to add, but I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. Danny Mary.
real quick, when do you think the auditors will be presenting their?
We have 6 months after the fiscal year, but tentatively I have them scheduled in September.
September, first or second meeting?
I don't know yet.
Okay.
Thank you. Danny Marion, community development.
I would just like to add that to date, we have issued 53 new home permits, and we have 38 in for review right now.
Thank you. Thank you.
Could you and Karen sort of coordinate those, because they don't seem to match up with the budget, the treasurer's report, so just make sure that we're reporting them all correctly.
Danny, I noticed that there are more houses going up than Lennar. Any issues with those?
No.
Okay. They seem to go up.
Chief Ramon Alcaraz, please.
Nothing to report, other than, next Friday, August 14th, is the second meeting for the road. You guys are more than welcome to come out. Looking forward to seeing you over.
Thank you very much for all your help with the corn boil.
Oh, absolutely, my pleasure.
What was the 14th?
Grooving in the Grove
Oh,
and Food Truck Friday.
do we have a date for an open house?
Ooh,
That was a thing that had been discussed a little while ago, that we were looking at, once it was complete, having an open house.
yes, once the building is renovated and complete, we hope on scheduling a date and coming back to the board with what that date is gonna be. But given that we still are working through the rehab, don't have a specific date yet. But once one becomes available, we'll be passing it along so that we can to the public.
We're hoping to get the keys turned over in the first or second week of September, depending upon when furniture is delivered and installed. We'll find that sweet spot before PD has moved in, when we can try to bring people through the building. So we're thinking maybe late September, but it really depends on if there's any delays or issues in the last steps here that are coming. So,
October 19th would be exactly 34 years that the building was built, so, or opened. So,
Really?
yeah, so
Okay.
maybe that's a target date. My twins were born, so that's how I know that, so.
Brad Merkel, Public Works.
My report's in there, I'm happy to answer any questions.
Hey, flooding from Saturday's rains, it was pretty dry.
Yeah, no, not that I know.
Yeah, good.
A quick question, do you know any more about Kingsbridge? I got.
We didn't check this.
President Stowe will submit a letter after the discussion at the last meeting, and we have not received a response yet.
Okay. And it's still not resolved.
In the packet we had, I noticed this thing from Perform Traffic Control Systems. There was paper markings, is that yours?
Yeah, that was last meeting.
Okay, so then this was not supposed to be in this packet then?
Correct.
Okay. I just thought there was a question. It was in there, so was there another question?
I just have a clarifying question. So, Sean asked if there was any flooding after the last storm. I think there was a few inches of rain. I'm seeing photos that new roads in Area 1 were flooded. Was that the case or not the case?
I can't answer that, I was not out there.
Okay.
New construction? I mean, it may appear there was flooding, but in new construction, the final lift of asphalt's not on, so the water can't get to the inlets right. So there could be like temporary water standing until it gets, or evaporates. And they also have filter fabric over the inlets, so it could take a little bit longer to get down too.
Okay.
So it's typical.
Thank you. Let's see. Trustee Lindy.
I had a couple of questions for our engineer, okay, that is appropriate.
Yeah. Did you want? Okay. Let's see. Open session. Did you want to step on?
I want to first express my support and confidence in EEI and particularly Michelle. I've worked with many engineers over my career, and she is very, very good at what she does. First, just so we get an idea, because being a professional civil engineer requires more than just a four-year degree, correct? Can you explain the certifications you have to go through so we get an idea of what level of expertise you're speaking at?
Sure. So initially you go to school for a minimum of a 4-year degree. You either do a 4-year degree or you go for your master's. Then you have to pass a fundamentals of engineering test, which then in turns makes you an engineer in training. And then after that, if you have a 4-year degree, you need 4 more years of experience. Or if you have your master's, you need a minimum of 3 years of experience. You have to get references from, you have to work under a licensed engineer during that time. And then after that, you have to pass an all-day exam to get your PE, and that's when you become licensed.
I have one question, if you don't mind. Can I jump in because it's relevant?
Okay.
So with all of that education, does anything in the Engineering Practice Act allow you to ask a non-engineer to determine a standard for an engineering project?
I don't think it addresses that one way or another.
It does. I can read it too.
That's fine. I'm happy to research it and follow up with you.
Sounds good. Go ahead.
So, you have extensive knowledge on this, much more than anybody up on this board, as far as relating to civil engineering. You're not civil engineers as far as I know. My question is, because there's been a lot of talk about the Kane County Stormwater Management Ordinance that we need to follow. Can you explain what the purpose of that is and a little bit about that?
Sure. The main purpose, if you look just in the first few pages of the Kane County Stormwater Ordinance, one of the main goals is to reduce the impacts of flooding on public improvements, residents, bodily injury, but the intent is to reduce the impacts.
And so that if somebody were to meet the stormwater ordinance, that is the purpose, so that is
Correct.
to be the intent. Okay.
Correct.
All right.
And there's various agencies that review a plan. There's Kane County, there's the Kane DuPage Soil and Water Conservation Commission.
They review for different reasons. In this case, which I'm going to make the assumption of the development that you're referring to, there was downstream impacts, right, to this. It was being released to unincorporated Kane County, which was part of the Forest Preserve District. So as part of that, given it's not being released directly into the Blackberry Creek, Kane County did review it for impacts on downstream communities as well. Yes.
In the Kane County Stormwater Ordinance, that was a standard set by a non-engineer.
There is input from engineers.
Yeah, it was a committee.
There's a whole committee, and I don't know everybody on that committee.
That's not what I asked. So in regard to the state statute, the second part that we've been communicating about, you had said, and you were told a non-engineer set that engineering standard, is that correct?
So I will be very clear. So just to get everybody on the same page, so we're all working. So as part of the TIP process, and I think this was addressed in my memo to the board as well, there's two parts. The first part, which is what EEI was tasked with, is does this property contribute to any downstream flooding? The answer is yes, which is why the flood maps were in our drainage study. It's very clear that there's downstream flooding in current conditions. So the answer is a very simple, straightforward yes to that. The second part that I believe you're referring to is alleviating all or part of the flooding downstream. It does not have a metric. We have talked about metrics during the development of the TIF. We gave possibilities. Kane County Stormwater Ordinance is number one. It's set in stone. There's parameters around it. So that was brought up as one possibility. We did discuss potential stricter metrics. At that time, it was defensible for the Kane County. Everything's in writing. There was concern that it would be arbitrary. There was no case law to support anything more. So
Quick question, do we use case law to answer engineering questions?
I'm just answering your question, and I do engineering. I'm not a policy person. I'm not a policy person. And the TIF statute does not have clear engineering metrics on what it is to alleviate flooding. There is no clear metric. So when there's no clear metric, we are obligated to go to the attorneys and the board for their direction. We take direction from you guys. That's what we do. We don't make it up. We saw the gray area, we recognize the gray area, and we put it out there. So we're just trying to take direction from what the board, and it was established at the time, different board, and I get that, so I'm not pointing fingers, but at the time it was established that the Kane County ordinance was the metric. And if someone wants to tell me a different metric, I'm happy to review for a different metric.
So you were asked, and you were told, this is what the metric is gonna be, this is what you need to review is the Kane County storm water, and that's all you've done. You did not tell them, oh, this is going to alleviate, because that does fall onto the attorneys, because that has to deal with the agreement and what constitutes a TIF. Now, let me tell you right now, I have said from the very beginning, I hate this TIF statute. I think it needs to be changed. I think it's too vague. I think I made myself very clear during all the hearings, but this is where we are. This is what we have. We have a very vague TIF statute and an agreement, which I will remind you that I did not vote for, that I was adamantly against, but this is where we are. This is how we run governments. There was a vote, we have an agreement, we must follow the agreement to the best without breaching the agreement.
Okay, I think we can end it there, but we can't just vote and ignore part of the state statute. And so we'll leave it at that for right now. I do have another question. I had emailed you. It sounds like you made a phone call to a local homeowner about flooding on their property. I wanted to know the nature of that call. Will you answer it?
I'm happy to tell you what I know. And I had actually had a summary email that I had sent to staff that I will pull out. I'm happy to send that to you. But it actually came why I reached out to the homeowner, because I've only talked to one homeowner. So I'm assuming it's the same person. I received a call from Kane County because it was an unincorporated homeowner. And they said they talked with them, but felt like this was related to the subdivision. So they reached out to me, and I immediately, I called him back within a reasonable time frame. He had a variety of concerns, yes, partly after July 2nd through the July 4th storms. And I don't have the whole thing, I can look it up, but the one item was water came into his property. It did not go into his house per se. His sump pumps were running, and they don't normally run. But I know that the developer had come in and tried to clean it up after a few days, had a landscaper. It wasn't to his satisfaction. I notified the developer that to follow up with the person. Second item was he was concerned that the stormwater ordinance was not taking into account all the impervious areas like the driveways and all that. I assured him that we're meeting the Kane County stormwater ordinance, and as part of that, yes, we do account for that in those proposed conditions. Another concern of his was I think there's a beaver dam that is being built along Blackberry Creek. And with that, he just noticed it and was concerned about upstream flow. Unfortunately, that is Forest Preserve property. It's unincorporated Kane County. That is not us. But I did reach out to the developer, to the Forest Preserve District for follow-up, just to make sure he was being addressed. So I made sure that the developer reached out to him. I also had our CO person, our construction person, go out there and just to make sure that people were being followed up with, and he did that. But really the developer, my understanding is the developer was going to repair what's there, but that becomes private property. We're trying to encourage it and make that happen, and the developer did not squabble about it and said yes. He also had another concern that he said he's, when he's had issues, because he's right on the property line, he said J&S has been awesome. Jim Wilhelm has been really great at responding to his any concerns he has. They've been working very well together. He's just afraid, like, what happens when J&S, and he shouldn't be calling J&S, and who should he call? So I deferred him to the right person with the developer. So I just made sure that I was translating information. He was asking questions. I also gave him my name, number, said if you have any concerns, anything that's not being addressed, please follow up with me so you have a backup. I didn't want to leave him in a pinch. I just wanted him to make sure he had someone to contact. And so I sent him an email that had all my contact information.
Okay. Are we allowed to flood with our developments, neighboring properties that haven't flooded before?
What was the question?
Are we allowed to flood
So I think if you actually,
neighboring properties with our developments that haven't flooded before?
I think if you actually look at the King County map, there is where there's historic flooding, and honestly, I even had a conversation with the county about it, and they said, yeah, there's historical flooding there, meaning it gets wet where it is. I don't want to necessarily debate that. I don't have the map in front of me, but that's not the intent. And I also really want to stress, as I've done in several of my emails, these were abnormal rains. These were not rains. I don't believe the gentleman said how long he was there for. I forget exactly how long, but I don't know, 10, 15 years. The floods the rains that we saw, if you look at those shorter durations, as I said, they're 100+ year. There was even a 500+ year storm in there, and they were back to back. So usually, it rains and it has time to infiltrate into the ground, and it can then run off. In this case, there was no room for infiltration. Like, the rains just kept hitting. They were abnormal rains. There were communities that saw flooding in places they didn't know flooded because of the rain events. There were serious rain events, and I'm not justifying that things should flood, but they were very extreme events. And I don't know, and I just want to make one other point too. The development is in progress. All the improvements, stormwater improvements, are not in. You just can't snap and they'll all be in. So it is not a final product, and I would stress that too. And I'm not going to say it's going to alleviate the flooding for every storm event once it's fully built out, but there is a piece of that that's not included that would probably make it better, not great.
Has there ever been downstream flooding that the government considers a flood that didn't result from extreme storms, or you didn't look at that?
I'm sorry, could you repeat that?
Has there ever been downstream flooding at a level that the government considers a flood, or you didn't look at that?
I'm not
Has there ever
following the
been
question.
downstream flooding that resulted from something that wasn't a severe storm?
I'm not sure I'm following the question.
So there's data, right? In Montgomery and Yorkville, there's exact data of what the government considers a flood and at what level. Has there ever been downstream flooding that didn't result from an extreme storm? Or you haven't looked at that?
I want to provide a correct response. So first and foremost, looked at the upstream property. So looked at where that Montgomery gauge was versus where Crown, the Grove is. And the upstream area is like 56.9 square miles is how much property is upstream of that Montgomery location. This property here is 0.2% of that 56
That's not the question.
miles.
Have there ever been downstream flooding that resulted from something other than an extreme storm.
I think that's question is too huge to answer. I think it's too.
It's literally documented. In each town, the government says when the creek is this high, because the creek is the
We were
water.
actually we have people in our firm that were actually part of setting those signs and those benchmarks at Montgomery.
Which is amazing and why I would like to be able to rely on you. But instead of you answering the question, you deferred the question to a non-attorney engineer to set the metric. And so that's all.
I offered possible solutions. I needed guidance on those solutions. I can't tell you, I'm not going to interpret TIF law. I'm not. That's not what I do.
So we actually asked another engineer to find out if this is true. We asked another engineer, would you be able to determine if the downstream flooding is alleviated? And you know what they asked? They said, we need to know the extent of the flooding. We need to know when the flooding occurs. They asked about 6 different questions. They were all science-related questions. Not one of them was, I don't know, what does the attorney say? Not a one. So you...
I completely disagree with your attack on our engineer, because one, your question was vague just now about, has there ever been a case of flooding ever that wasn't caused by a rainstorm, okay? I don't know, and I haven't heard, it's news to me that you contacted another engineer. I'm surprised we didn't get that information that you contacted and their responses.
We seem to be slow on getting the information.
Yeah, we do seem to be slow on getting that information, and curious on the cost on that as well. So I think the email, the letter that Michelle had sent out explains a lot of it. In that she was asked one question, she was told to do this, she did this. To determine what makes it so it alleviates, since it's such a gray area, that was not her decision. She does not write the TIF, the agreement with Crown. Now, I'm not saying I agree with that. I think, I didn't like the whole thing at all. I voted against it. But for you to try to pin that on our engineer, who is just doing their job of answering the questions that they were asked to do, which was, does this meet the Kane County Stormwater Management Ordinance? And does the water contribute, does the Crown property, does it contribute to downstream flooding? My understanding was those are the questions she needs to answer. To expect her to be a TIF attorney and interpret the TIF statute, which is an awful mess in my opinion, is going beyond her expertise. Her expertise are in engineering.
And I believe a lot of these questions were brought up during the public hearings and our meetings, but it was rushed, and there was 1,200 pages in one night that we reviewed. There's just no way that really everything could have been reviewed by our staff and consultants, even the attorneys, in an appropriate manner, because it was rushed so much. And, I know I brought it up, I must have brought it up as well, but yeah, it was more a blemish on, or the fault of the process than any of the consultants.
I agree with you, Trustee Michaels. It was rushed, and I think it's more on the process and not on the consultants.
Does anyone else have questions for Michelle at this time? Thank you.
Thanks, Michelle.
Just-
And to answer your question about downstream flooding or flooding that occurs, I think it happened in the 90s sometime, because
Correct, 96, yeah, extreme storm.
Well, yeah, but even around that time, King County Forest Preserve cleaned out Blackberry Creek because there were so many trees that had fallen across the creek, and that was causing flooding in normal rain circumstances. So to your point, I think there has been flooding during a normal rain process.
I can, I've got data on that, but
Yeah.
trustee,
I had a couple other things. One, just like I said, as a daughter of an engineer and work with engineers, I fully support and have confidence in EEI and their engineering experience. As far as the library, I didn't know if anybody knew, but there are free Ravinia concert tickets available through the library. They are first come, first serve. And you can get some more information on the library about that. They also are going to be doing a time capsule 2076 project. They'll be having more information about that in mid-August. That sounds like a really fun thing to do.
all right. Trustee Linden.
Wanted to comment on what appeared to be a very successful corn boil. It looked like everybody was having a great time there, and I was thrilled to be able to put in a few hours volunteering for the activity.
Thank you. Trustee Special.
No report.
Trustee Michaels.
No report.
Trustee Roscoe.
I also volunteered to do corn boil. It was a great event. It was very successful this year. So like a better turnout than last year.
It was great. There is an executive session this evening. Is there a motion and a second to enter executive session to discuss litigation 5 ILCS 122C11 and to adjourn the meeting? Afterward, there is no further business to discuss.
Make that motion.
We have a first from Trustee Michaels. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
And a second from Trustee Roscoe.
Trustee Michaels?
Yes.
Trustee Roscoe?
Aye.
Trustee Lindy?
Aye.
Trustee Linden? Aye. Trustee Special?
Aye.
Yes.